You wake up already behind. You scroll before you stand. You rush while your heart still whispers, slow down. You inhale without noticing, exhale without releasing. And all day long, you breathe like a stranger to yourself. Shallow, tense, silent. Not because you're broken, but because no one ever taught you that the most sacred act you'll ever perform is also the one you've been taught to ignore. Your breath. You were taught how to speak, how to argue, how to survive, but you were never taught how to breathe like a soul. No one told you that the breath is not just air, it's your alignment, your electricity, your invitation to the divine. No one told you that the shallowness in your chest wasn't just poor posture, it was spiritual disconnection. And so you kept going. You learned to chase moments instead of inhale them. You learned to react instead of receive. You learned to hold your breath in the face of fear and never quite let it go. You've become a master of productivity, but a beginner in presence. And now the ache is starting to whisper louder. Why do I feel so far from myself? Why do I feel disconnected from life, from others, from something greater? You think the problem is your pace, but the problem is your pattern. And all patterns begin with breath. We think breath is automatic. We think it's background. But in truth, your breath is the script your nervous system follows. It tells your body if you're safe. It tells your mind if it can rest. It tells your spirit whether you are home or still lost in the noise. And most people are breathing as if life is trying to kill them. Fast, tight, barely enough. They breathe to survive, but you were never meant to breathe just to survive. You were meant to breathe to remember. And that's where we begin. Not with a technique, not with a ritual, with the truth. You've forgotten what breath can do, and you're about to remember. Most people never question it. They assume breath is automatic, like blinking, like heartbeat, like digestion. Just background, unconscious, passive, a reflex of biology. But what if breath was never meant to stay unconscious? What if breath is the one function in your body that was left in your hands on purpose? Think about it. You can't control your liver. You can't command your kidneys. You don't get to manually adjust your hormones. But your breath, you can choose it, slow it, hold it, shape it. You can meet it halfway. It is the only life function that dances between will and surrender. The only bridge between your animal self and your divine memory. It is the sacred hinge between body and soul. So what if the ancients were right? What if you've been walking through life carrying a divine tool and never once using it? Not truly, not consciously, not with the reverence it deserves. Because if breath is a bridge, then each inhale is a step toward the divine, and each exhale is a release of everything that keeps you from it. You were taught to breathe to stay alive, but they never told you. The right breath doesn't just keep you alive, it brings you fully here. It awakens who you are beneath all the noise. Every breath you take in unconscious rhythm is a missed opportunity to remember yourself. But every breath you take with intention is a prayer, a recalibration, a doorway opening in the chest that says to the universe, I am here, I remember, I am not a machine. So ask yourself, if your breath was truly meant to be ignored, why does it change everything when you start listening to it? Why does it bring calm, clarity, energy, and presence without saying a single word? Because breath is not a reflex, it is a reminder, and now you remember. This truth isn't new. It's not modern. It's not trending. It wasn't born in a lab or on a podcast. It is ancient, because every wisdom tradition, every sacred culture, every real spiritual path begins with breath. In Hinduism, they called it prana, the sacred life force carried on the breath. To control the breath was to master energy. To breathe with intention was to awaken the divine. Pranayama wasn't a wellness hack, it was soul science. It opened chakras, balanced karma, and revealed the self beneath the mind. In Taoism, they called it qi, the subtle energy that flows through the meridians of the body. Breath was how you gathered it, how you cultivated inner power without force. Taoist monks didn't pray with words. They breathed with nature, syncing their lungs with the wind, their silence with the sky. To them, breath was the Tao in motion. In Sufism, the breath was remembrance. Every inhale was Hu, every exhale, Allah. They used rhythmic breath to melt the ego and return to the beloved. Every breath not spent in remembrance of God is a wasted breath. A Sufi saying they called breath the drumbeat of the soul. In Christianity and Judaism, the divine name itself was breath. In Hebrew, ruach, spirit, wind, breath. In Greek, pneuma, breath and soul. In Genesis, and God breathed into man, and he became a living soul. Early Christian mystics practiced hesychasm, breathing the Jesus prayer with every cycle. Lord Jesus Christ, on the inhale, have mercy on me, on the exhale. To them, silence wasn't empty. It was full of breath and God. In indigenous and shamanic traditions, breath was a portal. It opened the veil. It carried spirit in and out of the body during trance and healing. To breathe with nature was to join her rhythm. To breathe with intention was to become medicine. They weren't all saying the same words, but they were all breathing the same truth. That breath is not just oxygen. It is the spirit's way of speaking without sound. And somehow, we forgot. We reduced it to survival, to lungs and lungs only. But now, you are remembering, because breath doesn't belong to any religion. It belongs to your soul. For centuries, people dismissed breathwork as superstition. They called it ritual, placebo, spiritual nonsense. But slowly, quietly, modern science has begun to realize what the mystics have always known, that the breath is not just a function, it is a frequency tuner, a key that unlocks the deepest systems of your body and beyond. The heart-brain connection. The HeartMath Institute discovered something stunning. When your breath becomes slow and rhythmic, your heart rate synchronizes with your brain waves. This creates a state called coherence, where your nervous system, immune system, and brain all begin to operate in harmony. You feel peace, clarity, balance, not from a pill, from a 6-second breath. Breath in the nervous system. When you slow your breath, you activate your vagus nerve, the sacred switch that turns off the stress response and turns on healing. This shifts you out of fight or flight and into rest, repair. Remember, your body isn't being tricked, it's being returned to its design. Pineal gland activation studies show that specific breath patterns increase blood flow and oxygen to the pineal gland, the inner gateway long associated with intuition, dreams, and higher consciousness. This tiny gland, seated between the hemispheres of your brain, has photoreceptors like the eyes. It responds to breath, light, and vibration. Mystics called it the third eye. Scientists now call it a dormant light sensor ready to awaken. Breath alters brain waves. Fast breathing creates beta and gamma brain waves, stress and speed. But slow, coherent breath shifts your brain into alpha and theta, states associated with deep meditation, creativity, emotional healing, spiritual insight. The breath literally rewires the way your mind works. Breath regulates your electromagnetic field. Your heart produces an electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond your body. And breath controls its rhythm. So when you breathe with intention, you're not just calming yourself. You're sending a new frequency into the world. You're shaping reality with rhythm. So no, this isn't fantasy. This is the moment where sacred becomes scientific, where breath returns to its rightful place, not as background, but as the bridge between biology and spirit. The ancients breathed to awaken. Science now proves they were right. So the question isn't whether it works. The question is, are you willing to remember how to use it? Most people think they're breathing just fine. They're alive. Air is moving. What could be wrong? But take a closer look. Watch someone walking through the day. Tense shoulders, shallow chest breaths, mouth open, eyes rushing, breath held in traffic, breath held in conversations, breath held in life. And when it does move, it's quick, it's tight, it's reactive, like something is chasing them. Because something is, it's called survival mode, and most people are locked in it. 24 hours a day, even when nothing's wrong, they're breathing as if they're still running from the bear. Even though they're just checking email, their body's calm, but their breath says, I'm under threat. And here's the truth. The body listens to the breath, not the calendar. If your breath says fear, your cells respond as if you're in danger. And over time, this becomes your identity. You become a person who lives on edge, a person whose breath never reaches the belly, a person whose nervous system is always one alarm away from collapse. You call it normal, but it's not normal. It's disconnection. It's what happens when you've spent your whole life breathing to survive instead of breathing to arrive. The breath of survival is shallow. It stays in the upper chest, never deep enough to ground you. It moves through the mouth, never slow enough to calm you. It lives in your stress, never wise enough to guide you. It's not that you're breathing wrong, it's that you're breathing like someone who forgot that breath was supposed to be sacred. But now, you are starting to remember. Because once you see the false breath, you can begin to choose the real one. The one that doesn't come from fear, the one that doesn't chase approval, the one that brings you back, not just to calm, but to who you were before the fear began. When the ancients breathed, they weren't just taking in air. They were taking in God, not as an idea, not as a story, but as vibration. Their breath was a living prayer, a rhythm of remembering, a ritual performed in silence. Because to them, the breath was the oldest mantra, the only one given before language, the only one that could never be taken away. They didn't speak to the divine. They breathed into it, each inhale, receiving presence, each exhale, releasing illusion. Their lungs became temples, their breath became devotion, and in that rhythm they remembered. They were not bodies trying to find the divine. They were the divine, momentarily wearing bodies. You don't need incense to return to the sacred. You don't need robes or titles. You just need to sit and let your breath speak without sound. Try it. Inhale slowly, like you're receiving the first breath of creation. Hold, like the universe is pausing with you. Exhale gently, as if you're releasing everything you're not. Rest, like you're being held by something older than time. Do this not as technique, but as truth, because your breath is not a habit, it is a hymn. This is how the ancients touched God without ever leaving their bodies. They didn't escape upward, they breathed inward. And what they found was that every breath given in presence became a stairway back to the divine. You don't have to say anything, just breathe like you mean it, and the universe will answer. Not in word, but in resonance. Most people think of breath as air, in, out, oxygen, carbon dioxide, nothing more. But that's not what the soul sees. To the soul, every inhale is a receiving, every exhale is a becoming. The inhale, receiving frequency. When you inhale with presence, you're not just filling your lungs, you're pulling in energy, memory, divine instruction, a vibration older than language. You are drawing from the invisible field into the intimate center of your being. You're saying, yes, I open. Yes, I welcome life. Yes, I am here. In that moment, you are receiving from source, the exhale, becoming tone, and then you exhale. And this is not release alone. This is transmission. You're not just letting go. You're declaring who you are. Your exhale is your tone. It's your resonance. It's what you contribute to the field. You're saying, this is what I carry. This is what I choose to become. This is what I return to the world. Just like the universe expands and contracts, your breath mirrors the sacred pulse of creation. Inhale, you receive raw energy. Hold. You hold potential. Exhale. You become the shape of your choice. Rest. You dissolve, ready to begin again. You are not just alive. You are a microcosm of divine rhythm. And here's the secret. If you breathe without presence, you shape your life without consciousness. But if you breathe with awareness, you begin to consciously sculpt your own frequency. You don't just change how you feel, you change what you are. So from this moment forward, don't just inhale because your body demands it. Inhale like you're pulling eternity into your chest. And don't just exhale because it's automatic. Exhale like you're becoming exactly who your soul came here to be. You can't rush the sacred. You can't microwave presence. You can't sprint toward stillness. And the soul, the real soul, will not descend into a vessel that's vibrating like static. The divine doesn't enter through speed. It waits for silence. It waits for space. Most people breathe fast because they live fast. Their thoughts move like traffic. Their hearts beat like alarms. Their energy stutters between distractions. And their breath follows, always chasing, always tensed, always 2 steps ahead of now. And so the soul, soft, slow, sacred, cannot find a home. The divine isn't missing. It's waiting. It's watching for a moment when your body slows. Your mind softens. Your rhythm matches the quiet tone of heaven. Only then does it descend. Not because it's far, because you are too fast to receive it. Stillness is not passive, it is preparation. When you sit in calm breath, you're not doing nothing. You're tuning the instrument so spirit can play it. You're clearing space so something real can enter. You're lowering the volume of the ego so the tone of the soul can be heard. The soul is not something you chase, it is something you invite, and breath is the invitation. But the room must be ready, the house must be still, the fire must be gentle enough to welcome light. So the next time you feel anxious, don't reach for more stimulation. Reach for the sacred pause. Inhale slowly, as if heaven is drawing near. Exhale gently, as if God is sitting beside you. And rest in the space where nothing needs to happen, because that's where it comes. That's where it lives. That's where you begin to remember what you've always carried. You are not just spirit, you are structure. And the divine, no matter how infinite, must pass through that structure to reach this world through you. That structure is your nervous system. It is the temple gate, the bridge between form and flame. If the gate is closed, the soul cannot enter. Your nervous system is not just a highway of signals. It is a sacred interpreter of experience. It tells your body if you are safe. It tells your breath how deep to go. It tells your mind whether it can rest. And most importantly, it tells your soul, you may descend now. You are welcome here. This house is ready for you. But here's the truth most forget. If your nervous system is stuck in survival mode, if it's locked in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, your breath will shorten, your field will contract, and your soul will wait until the temple is opened again. The vagus nerve, the hidden gatekeeper. There is a sacred cord running from your brain down your body. It's called the vagus nerve, and it holds the key to your temple. When you breathe deeply, slowly, or through your nose, you stimulate the vagus nerve. You turn off emergency systems. You activate healing. This is not a hack. This is a sacrament. You are signaling to the divine, I am safe. You may enter now. Trauma closes the gate. Fear tightens the breath. Stress clouds the field. But conscious breathing, it unbolts the door. It cleans the altar. It says to your body, you don't have to brace anymore. You don't have to guard. You don't have to protect. You can receive now, because that's what this has always been about. Not just relaxation, not just calm, but readiness. Readiness for the soul to inhabit you fully. Not just in theory, but in tone, in frequency, in truth. So breathe like someone preparing a throne for light. because your body is not a prison, it's a temple. And when you breathe right, the gate opens and the sacred enters. Breath is not just medicine, it is movement. Wherever your breath goes, your energy follows. Wherever your energy flows, your life begins again. The ancients taught this without machines, without diagrams, without scans. They didn't need proof. They had presence. They knew that breath wasn't just for the lungs. It was for the body of light within the body of flesh. And that body, the subtle body, was waiting to be remembered. The energy channels in yoga, they called them nadis. In Chinese medicine, meridians. In Kabbalah, pathways of light. In mystical Christianity, the flame lines of the spirit. Different names, same truth. You are not solid, you are circuitry, and the breath is what powers your current. When your breath stays shallow, your energy stays stuck. It pools in places where it grows stagnant, becomes anxiety, fatigue, mood swings, numbness. But when breath is guided with awareness, with rhythm, with intent, those places begin to move again. You can breathe into your heart, you can breathe into your belly, you can breathe into your back, your throat, your root. And when you do, you're not just oxygenating tissue, you're awakening memory. The energy centers, you've heard the names before: root, sacral, solar plexus, heart, throat, third eye, crown. These are not just symbols, they are vibrational gates, and your breath is the key that unlocks them. Breathe into the root and you remember safety. Breathe into the heart and you remember love. Breathe into the crown and you remember silence that sings. You don't have to force it, just place your awareness and breathe. The breath brings warmth, the warmth brings flow, the flow brings awakening. This is why ancient practices worked. They weren't manipulating muscles. They were inviting energy back into the sacred circuits. So if you've ever felt frozen, blocked, emotionally numb, if you've ever felt like you lost a piece of yourself somewhere in your body, don't try to think it back. Breathe it back. Because wherever your breath goes, your energy wakes up. And when your energy wakes up, your soul starts to shine through. Deep in the center of your brain rests something small, but holy. The ancients knew it. Mystics protected it. Modern science ignored it. Until now. It's called the pineal gland, and it may be the most spiritual structure in your body. They called it the third eye, the seat of the soul, the lamp within the temple, the place where divine light meets human form. It's not just symbolic, it's real. The pineal gland has photoreceptors, like your physical eyes, yet it's buried in darkness. Why? Because it wasn't made to see the world outside. It was made to perceive the world within. But here's the mystery. The pineal doesn't open through thought. It doesn't awaken through reading. It opens when breath becomes light. Breath unlocks the gate. When you breathe deeply, slowly, rhythmically, with awareness at the center of your head, something begins to stir. Oxygen increases, blood flow expands, neural activity softens, DMT levels fluctuate, inner vision clears. You may see light, you may feel pressure, you may enter silence that glows. That is not imagination, that is remembering. You were born with a doorway inside you, but you lost the key. Breath is that key, not forced breath. Sacred breath, the kind that whispers through the spine, rises to the crown, and kisses the center of your brain like morning sun touches ancient stone. And when it does, something opens. You begin to see without eyes. You sense things before they're spoken. You receive images, insight, inner knowing. The pineal becomes what it was always meant to be: a lighthouse, a transmitter, a temple window where spirit gazes back at itself. This is why every real spiritual path involves breath and stillness, because without breath, the gate rusts shut. But when you return, when you breathe into that center like it's sacred, you awaken the part of you that never forgot, the part of you that never stopped seeing through the veil. You don't end at your skin. Your body might stop there, but your presence doesn't. There's a field around you, a soft sphere of energy generated by your heart, shaped by your emotions, and tuned by your breath. Modern instruments can now measure it. Your heart emits an electromagnetic field that extends several feet in all directions. It's not esoteric fantasy, it's bioelectric reality. And here's the truth. That field shifts every time you breathe. When your breath is shallow and erratic, your field becomes jagged, unstable, closed. When your breath is deep and coherent, your field becomes smooth, expansive, magnetic. You don't just feel better inside, you start affecting everything around you. This is why some people walk into a room and bring calm without speaking. This is why others carry tension without saying a word. It's not their thoughts, it's their field. And the breath is what writes the code of that field. Breath is your frequency dial. Every inhale tunes the body. Every exhale sends a signal. You are constantly broadcasting fear, trust, chaos, stillness, power, peace, and people feel it, even if they don't know how or why. But most important, the universe responds to what you radiate, not just what you think. This is why breath is more powerful than affirmations, because breath shapes the energy those words ride on. So if you've tried to manifest but nothing sticks, if you've tried to align but something always slips, don't start with your goals. Start with your breath, because the world doesn't respond to your plans, it responds to your frequency, and frequency is written by breath. You are not here to beg reality to change. You are here to breathe your tone into the field until the world cannot help but respond in kind. Knowledge means nothing until it becomes rhythm. All the insight, all the revelation, none of it matters if it doesn't become something you live inside your body. And that's what breath offers you. A path, a return, a practice that makes you real again. You don't need hours, you don't need robes, you don't need to escape to the mountains. You need 5 minutes and the decision to stop running. Here is the sacred return. 1. Sit. Find stillness, not perfection, just stillness. Sit upright, spine long but soft, feet grounded, hands open or over heart, eyes closed, not an escape, but an invitation. 2. Inhale gently. For 4 seconds, breathe in through your nose. Let the air move low, into your belly, your ribs, your heart. As you inhale, say silently, I receive, I return, I remember. 3. Hold for 4 seconds. Let the breath rest in you, not forced, just present. This is the pause between worlds, the space where the divine whispers. 4. Exhale slowly, for 4 seconds through your nose or mouth, smooth and calm. As you release, say silently, I release, I soften, I allow. Let the breath carry away what doesn't belong. 5. Pause empty for 4 seconds. This is the moment of trust. No breath, no doing, just being held by silence. This is where the soul slips through. Repeat this cycle 5 times, or 10, or until your mind begins to listen to the body again. This is called box breathing, used by monks, healers, warriors, and mystics alike. Why? Because it rewires your system. It teaches you that presence is your natural state. It invites the divine without needing a single word. You can do this before sleep, before work, before a conversation, before making a choice. Any moment you remember, just stop and breathe like someone who wants to be real again. Because you are not here to just cope. You are here to come back to life. You can learn everything about a person by how they breathe. Not their habits, not their knowledge, not their routine, but their relationship with their own worth. Because the breath doesn't lie. Someone who breathes shallow doesn't believe they're safe to receive. Someone who holds their breath fears being too much or not enough. Someone who exhales quickly doesn't trust they'll be held when they let go. We think identity is shaped by thought, but it's shaped in the chest, in the belly, in the sacred in and out of every silent inhale. Your breath reveals who you think you are allowed to be. If you were raised on fear, you learn to inhale less, to occupy less space, to avoid deep breath, because deep presence made you visible. If you were taught to perform, you may breathe high and fast, ready to react, prove, please, defend. If you were taught that love is earned, you might breathe like it's a negotiation. But now, you know the truth. You are not here to survive someone else's expectations. You are here to reclaim your breath as a statement of who you choose to be now. So ask yourself, how am I breathing when no one's watching? Do I allow the breath to move all the way in? Do I rush to exhale and return to doing? Do I breathe like I belong? Like I matter? Like I'm safe to be here? Because when you breathe as if you are divine, you begin to feel it, not as ego, but as homecoming. And every breath becomes a chance to rewrite the story, to say, I am not broken. I do not have to hide. I am here and I deserve to be fully present in my own body, not just because it feels good, but because it's true. And the breath always mirrors the truth once you're ready to see it. Most people breathe to stay alive, but the mystics, they breathe to remember who they were, not to control life, but to commune with it, not to fix the body, but to bow to the divine inside it. They turn breath into a devotional act. Because when done in presence, breathing is not a tool. It is prayer without sound. It is meditation in motion. It is the soul's way of saying, I trust, I return, I am still with you. Think of this. Your first act in this life was a breath. Your final act will be the same. You arrive on inhale. You depart on exhale. And everything in between is the sacred rhythm of spirit becoming human and remembering again and again what it forgot. So let the breath become more than practice. Let it become devotion. Light a candle with it each morning, even if only in your heart. Let every inhale be a quiet yes. Let every exhale be a sacred surrender. Let every cycle be your way of saying, I belong to something eternal. And I choose to live like I know that. Not someday now. You don't need to believe. You just need to breathe with reverence. Because in this world of speed, distraction, noise, to slow down and breathe with sacred attention is an act of rebellion and an act of worship. You were never separate. The breath was always your bridge back. And now, it's your devotion, not once a day, but every day. With every sacred cycle, you are blessed to receive. Let's say it now clearly. You are not breathing air. You are breathing God. Every inhale is not just oxygen. It is presence. It is intelligence. It is life that never dies entering form that always changes. You were taught breath was mechanical, that it moves gases, that it keeps the body alive. But that's only the surface. Underneath every molecule is meaning. And what flows into you is not just chemistry, it is divine current. The mystics didn't breathe to calm down. They breathed to commune. They knew that the same force that breathed stars into space is now breathing through their ribcage, right now. They knew. To breathe with reverence is to become a living temple. Because God doesn't just speak in thunder and sky. God speaks in breath, in silence, in rhythm, in stillness. And when you inhale with awareness, you are not just pulling in life. You are receiving the tone of the sacred. You are drawing in the breath that moved across the waters in Genesis. The breath that gave Adam soul, the breath that carries the word ruach, spirit in Hebrew. And when you exhale, you are returning that presence back into the field. You are becoming the sacred in circulation. You are part of the divine loop, giving and receiving, knowing and dissolving, becoming and remembering. So don't just breathe to feel better. Breathe to become whole. Don't breathe just for the body. Breathe because you are hosting the infinite. Right now, here, with this inhale. You are not breathing air. You are breathing the very thing you've been searching for your whole life. And it's been searching for you too. You've remembered now, not through a sermon, not through belief, but through the silence between inhales. through the stillness that opened inside you as breath became devotion again. You've remembered that you were never disconnected, only distracted, and the path home was never far. It was always there, right beneath your nose. So now what? Now you breathe, but not like before. Now you breathe like someone who knows their chest is sacred, who knows their body is a doorway, who knows that every inhale is a contract with eternity. From this day on, breathe like a flame that never goes out. Breathe like a soul that refuses to dim. Breathe like the world depends on it, because it does. Because every time you breathe with presence, you light a candle inside someone else. You shift the field around you. You remind those near you that peace is possible in the middle of the storm, not by preaching, by embodying. You are not here to talk about awakening. You are here to breathe as the awakened do, soft, strong, still, like a flame that dances but never disappears. And when the world tries to pull you back into speed, into noise, into breathlessness, you'll know what to do. You'll pause, you'll soften, you'll smile, and you'll breathe again. Not to survive, but to remember, to become, to bless this moment with the rhythm of the divine that lives inside you.